This season of Doctor Who has been nothing if not unpredictable. Rather than sticking to safe, easy stories to appeal to as many viewers as possible, we've had a series of bold experimental episodes that are like nothing we've seen before. Even though I'm broadly in favour of this approach, I can certainly see why people might not enjoy it. This episode in particular is a perfect example. The opening 10 to 15 minutes are very hard to sit through, but the devastating ending makes it all worthwhile. The opening plunges you into this nightmarish world of beautiful people spouting vacuous nonsense to each other 24/7. As Ruby later says, it's like Love Island world, combining all the worst elements of modern culture and just exaggerating them even further. To anyone over the age of 30, this is absolute hell. And it seems like it's setting up a fairly predictable scenario where all the shallow young people have to give up social media and find out what the real world is like. The sort of thing you might expect from a 61-year-old writer. Luckily, it does develop into something much more interesting by the end. This is another Doctor Light episode, following on from last week, where the Doctor was only in 2 scenes. Here, both the Doctor and Ruby only show up at the end. It's not quite as obvious this time, as they do appear on screen throughout, but all of their scenes could easily have been shot in a day. It is a bit worrying that we only get 8 episodes this year, and 2 of them are largely missing their lead. But as long as he's more present in the remaining 3, then it should balance out. Instead of the regulars, Callie Cooke as Lindy is in every scene and proves a compelling lead. Initially, you might think that they're setting her up as a near companion, like Sally Sparrow in Blink, as the Doctor and Ruby encourage her to break out of her bubble and make her escape. She even gets a love interest when Ricky shows up. But just when you think they're on track for a happy ending, she sacrifices him to save her own skin. Which is really the first clue that she's not a decent person after all. The final twist that the colonists are all massive racists came as a big surprise to me. Non-white viewers may have noticed that the entire population of Finetown was white much earlier on, but I live in an area with basically the same demographic, so I didn't really notice. I guess if I lived in a big city, then it may have stood out a lot more. There are other clues, of course. The fact that Lindy immediately dismisses the Doctor, but is much more open to listening to Ruby, is another early clue to the true nature of this society. But again, I'm not sure how many people would have spotted it at the time. The 15th Doctor's race has never really been addressed so far. Even in the 1960s episode, everyone just treated him normally, which would not have happened in the real 1960s. But this episode shows that they are willing to address it when necessary to make a point. Ncuti Gatwa's acting in the final scene is the best he's done so far. His reaction as he watches the colonists likely go to their deaths just because they're too bigoted to trust him is a massive outpouring of emotion, and it may come to be seen as a defining moment for his Doctor. Visually, the episode looks incredible, with a wonderful location that looks distinctive enough that it could easily be on an alien planet. I thought they must have found some quirky little town somewhere in Europe, but apparently it's Swansea University. The bubble effects are also well executed, especially when characters are moving around surrounded by all the screens, and it does seem convincing as a future evolution of technology, combining sat-navs, social media and smart glasses all in one big package. I'm sure Apple are working on something similar right now. We also get a proper alien monster for the first time since Space Babies. They look like giant slugs and are pretty disgusting, but I can't really call them scary as they don't really move. I had thought that the twist was going to be that the youngsters' parents had sent them all there to be exterminated, as they were all so useless and completely valueless to society. But the twist that it was actually the Dots who got sick of the youngsters and decided to wipe them out was nearly as good. It doesn't quite make sense, as the Dots can easily just kill humans by flying right through their brains, so it's not clear why they don't just do that, rather than setting the monsters loose and just waiting for the humans to walk into their paths. So that's a bit of a loose end. Who knows, maybe there will be a sequel to fill in some of the blanks. The way Lindy kept looking back towards the end indicated that she may be regretting her decision to leave, so it's possible she may come back, or she might just die very soon along with the rest of them. Overall, it's another strong episode, with a lot to say about today's modern society and the younger generation's reliance on technology and social media, very much in the style of Black Mirror, but with a slightly more futuristic setting so they can take it even further. Despite the dodgy start, it really comes together in the final scene, and I think this could well be regarded as one of the high points of the season. Next week, Rogue, the first episode since 2020 that's not been written by one of the 3 showrunners. And it's a parody of Bridgerton, so I should probably watch at least one episode of that so I can get the references. So subscribe if you want to see my thoughts on Rogue, or possibly on season 1 of Bridgerton if I get really into it. And I'll see you next time.